we have an expert who's going to talk to us about storytelling. His name is Ashiish Patil. Ashiish, please step forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
And most importantly, she will read out his bio. It is actually 3 pages long, but I have asked her to only read out a few lines. And he is the author of this book.
Thanks.
Photo, please take some pictures. So, truth be told, we wanted to present these books to all the panelists and also gift some books to the best questions. But unfortunately, those books are in Noida and we had the session today. So, but anyway, do read this book.
Yes, please.
He's a man of many talents, so I don't think I should read out his intro. Let his work and his words speak for themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Ashiish V Patil?
So thank you so much for inviting me to do this. It's always fun to talk about stories and storytelling, and especially in such an exciting and fascinating category like yours. Yeah, here we go. That's not part of my presentation, but I'm glad we're starting with that. So yeah, there's this iconic line. Obviously, you guys are very, very familiar with how diamonds are forever. This was actually first written and put out in 1948, and how that dramatically impacted just the adoption of diamonds and that being used as an engagement ring. From about 10% awareness in the US, it exploded to 80% and so much more. And how important a role pop culture has played across movies and music and entertainment to really bring in adoption of diamonds, be it mined or be it lab. If diamonds are forever, I think it's essentially stories that make those forever moments memorable, and that's what I'm hoping to talk to you guys about today. So let's take a moment essentially and talk about what do you remember? What are the things that you do remember? If I were to really, ask you to take a moment to close your eyes and think about the top 3 positive memories you have, chances are you're gonna think about, songs, special moments, occasions. For some strange reason, I always remember random Baba Sehgal songs. It's just shit that just stays in my head. I don't know why. Or absurd, terrible jokes at the most inopportune moments. But typically there will be moments like, "Acha, meri beti ki birthday," or the first crush that you had in school, or a special moment that happened, or probably maths teacher ki pitai. Now, those are those very, very special things that you typically land up remembering, and those stay with you from facts to moments like that. And think about it, why do those moments really stay with you? The reason you remember some of these things is because, we learn these things to learn, to grow, because when you find out that ye karne se gadbad hoti hai, that will help you survive. It's a survival tool. When you learn a certain thing, usse growth aata hai. Aur galtiyan sudharne ka mauka milta hai. Now, for a moment, if any of you were to ever try forgetting your wife's birthday, I promise you lifetime nahi bhulenge. एक बार वो गलती करके देखना and फिर सीखोगे. And we remember some of these things, especially because now suddenly those memories and those moments have feelings and emotions which have gotten associated with them. There are stories that have gotten attached to them. And like I think Anil was talking, that a diamond never really is just about the cut, the color, the size, the price. It's always about the moment, the occasion, the emotion behind it, right? So now, how do you remember these things? All of us as individuals have 2 hard drives. एक यहाँ पे, आपका दिमाग, your brain. It's your short-term memory वाला hard drive. So this is where you'll remember random facts, information. ऑफिस जाने का रास्ता, कौन से फ्लोर पे ऑफिस है, अगर फ्लाइट मिस हो गई है, फ्लाइट फाइनली बोर्डिंग कार्ड आया हाथ में, what is your seat number? But minute that piece is over, खत्म, delete. You kind of empty the recycle bin, you clear your cache, and you move on. The second hard drive that you have is here. It's not over here. और यहाँ की जो storage होती है, it's infinite. That's where also your long-term memory kind of fits in. So it's not just about what was the seat number. You probably won't remember it at the end of that session. But where did that flight take you? Was that the flight that took you on your honeymoon? Was that the flight that took you to Goa for a boys' trip? Was that the beach where you had this terrible food poisoning because you had this terrible whatever food item on that shack? Now, how do you remember these things? You remember these things the same way you do with physical objects or digital objects. You name the file. So be it whatever, honeymoon, birthday, wedding, whatever, etc. Right? You save the file and then you retrieve that file from your memory whenever the right cue is essential. That's how essentially stuff gets stored. So if you're able to do the right indexing with it, when the same music, the same emotion, the same memory, the same feeling is triggered, you will be able to generate and build that association for your brand and as a story. But if your story is essentially, मैं सबसे सस्ता हूँ, या एक पे एक free मिलेगा, chances are you're not going to be able to be remembered. You want to merge into that strange checkerboard of logos that we saw, or behind Ashiish Patil's back, and that's not a happy place to be in, right? So you're going to have to filter out how to build those associations, build those emotions strongly, so it can help you differentiate, it can help you stand out, and it can help you pitch probably a better story. Now think back, who do you remember? Now, we were just chatting just a little, a while before the seminar, and it's incredible. Well, some of you have seen this from the early inception days, the start from scratch, and some are fairly, young in this fairly young industry, and have seen so much action. While it's a very, very young category, I genuinely believe there's still a lot of learnings that you can take from a bunch of other categories which are also pitched on very similar promises, which is about style, about technology, about luxury, about sustainability, about craftsmanship. And I think Ricky used a couple of really interesting examples as we were chatting about it outside. Think about technology as a category. I mean, there's always this, PC versus Mac, Android versus iOS. लोग जिहादी हो जाते हैं जब Apple के बारे में बात करते हैं. And obviously there's a reason why कुछ लोग अपनी किडनी भी बेच के iPhone खरीद लेते हैं. It's clearly not just a function of a better camera or the solid space, right? When you talk about designer handbags, I think we were talking about handbags right outside. I don't even know how to pronounce Hermes. Have I got that right? I'm sorry. I think it's Hermes. My memory of Hermes is Bhagwati from Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. I mean, there's a reason why someone will spend lakhs of rupees to carry an LV versus a Lavi. And I think Shania was talking about that right outside. Or you take fine wines and spirits. I think, is there a reason why rare vintage, single malts, etc. cost so much more versus an old monk? Firstly, I'm an old monk guy, but I think it's my hostel days that come back to me. But chances are, for most people in a blind test, they can't tell one spirit apart from the other. But there's a reason why there's so much emotion, feeling, etc. that has gotten associated. It's the stories that they've built out. And I think that's what interesting conversation Mehul, Shania and I were having outside about how, even if the category is really young, I think when you're able to really set up that brand, I think the sky is really the limit in terms of where you can take it. So how do you really build out doing that? How do you build that differentiation? How do you bring in your story? I think a couple of things really that you could do to try and remember is first identify what your unique narrative is. And that's what I probably find missing in that sea of logos that it's, I think someone said something really insightful right outside of the chat that about how if the narrative is about taking the other guy down, isse better hai, isse sasta hai, I don't think that's a strong enough differentiation. I don't think it needs to be at the expense of the others, or if it's just price, that's not going to be because someone else will always come in and offer something cheaper. So how are you going to really build that out? What is unique about you? What is your story? Find that out. What is your tonality? Second, use storytelling not just in your advertising. I think that's just one basic tool to get your message or get your story out. I think storytelling is a part of every touch point. It's what you do at retail. It's what you put out as a post on your own personal LinkedIn. It's what you put out in your packaging. It's what you put out, with your team, with a uniform. It's each of those elements that allow you to build a story. And like every good story, it needs to have a start, a middle, and an end. And there's a bunch of elements that go into building out memorability or recognition with that story. Like, it could be an audio morning. So, minute I said tudum, I'm talking on Netflix. Minute आपने अरिजीत सिंह का गाना सुना, आपको पता है यार दिल टूटेगा. I think one classic lesson from my years at Wire कि वो जंगल में मोर वाला situation now. I think anything multiplied by 0 is 0. anything multiplied by 1 will remain the same. I think just creating a great product is never going to be enough. I think you'll have to put out enough push also in terms of distribution and marketing. We used to call it P&A, which is prints and advertising in films. So put that out there, get your stories out there, make your stories memorable, and let us know what's your story. So thank you so much.